Right. So I believe we've hit the critical mass in the attendance, and hopefully we'll have some more trickling in afterwards. Welcome to this webinar on the 3 digital skills that everybody should master by 2022. This is a webinar presented to you by Lumax Digital, the company that I created and that I operate. I am delighted to have you today on this call, and a few housekeeping notes. You're all in mute to make sure that we don't have background noises during the chat, during the conversation, but please feel free to use the chat function if you have any questions at any given time. We'll tackle all the questions in the end to make sure that we have time to go through all of the content. So looking forward to this great session. Please feel free to ask questions through the chat, and please take in as much as you want. A recording will be provided after this session so that you can also have the visuals from the slides that I'll be sharing. All right. A few words about Lumax Digital, the company presenting you this webinar today. So it's a boutique agency based here in Geneva, Switzerland, providing tailor-made services around 3 core axes: digital innovation, digital marketing strategy, as well as digital coaching, typically what we're doing today. We help clients across industries manage their digital innovation and their digital strategy. So today we're talking about 3 key skills that we believe that everybody in Switzerland and abroad should master by 2022. And so now that the buzz has been created for a few weeks that we've created this event, we're happy to unveil them. The first one is being safe online and safeguard your privacy when you are using internet. I think this is a key element, a key skill that you should have at any given point in your career, at any age, at any occupation. It is important to know how to do that. So we'll go through practical tips for that. The second one is how to be a rock star on your video conferencing. Today, we're going through video conferencing. You're most probably doing a ton of video conferencing with your colleagues, with your friends, with your family. There are a few things that can help you make sure that you nail it well each time that you do it. And the last skill that we're going to take you through is improving your visuals game and elevate your game from a visual standpoint when you make presentations for work, when you do flyers for your personal life or anything like that. There are some free and practical tools that you can use and really elevate that game. And of course, we'll keep some time for Q&A at the end of the session. All right, so without further ado, let's get started with security. How do you stay safe online and safeguard your privacy at any given time? Well, there are a few best practices to follow, and here they are. The first one is don't think that you're not interesting to the hackers. Everybody is a potential target to hackers. Not that they care particularly about you as a person, but they care about your data. And so don't say, oh, I'm not interesting for them, or what are they going to take? They're going to take pictures or a few things. No, they don't care about that element. What hackers do care about is your personal data so that they can then sell it or use it to a unpleasant motive, let's put it this way. So cybersecurity is not limited to big companies. Cybersecurity is not limited to big profiles or anything like that. Cybersecurity is the responsibility of everyone. And everybody must be careful because you can be the target of a hacker at any given time. Again, it's not you in particular that they want to harm. They just want the data, they want the information, and possibly make money out of it afterwards. So the first tip is always know that you are a target, that you're not safe because you believe that your data is uninteresting. Any piece of data is interesting to hackers. The second thing is make sure you keep your computers and devices up to date. Most of the time, the updates from the applications or the softwares that you have on your computer or on your phone are for user experience and functionalities, etc. But 99% of the time, they also include some privacy and safety improvements to the applications and to the software. So by updating your software every time, by enabling auto update for your Microsoft product, for your Apple product, for any software that you have on your computer, by enabling these automatic updates, you're safeguarding yourself, because each time they patch a security risk, each time they improve the security, you benefit from it. If you don't update, then probably you might be vulnerable to a threat that they have identified and solved in one of the latest updates, but because your computer or your phone is not updated, then you're not benefiting from that enhanced security. So that's second advice. Make sure you keep your softwares up to date. Just going to pause here to see. So there's a question, is it possible to have the slides at the end? So the slides will not be shared per se, but a recording of this session will be shared afterwards. Yes, absolutely. So keep your software up to date and make sure that you use softwares that are of good quality, coming from trusted sources. The next one is avoid phishing and scams. So phishing is when you receive an email that has a link that then goes onto a place that downloads a virus on your computer or that takes a specific action in the bank. Usually here it is the best practice to think about, were you expecting that email? Do you know that person? Does that seem too good to be true? Usually an email that says you've won $1 million francs is not a true email. That doesn't happen by email when you've won the lottery. So when something appears to be too good to be true, or if it looks not well, or if it's from FedEx or DHL, but you're not expecting anything, beware of these emails, because this is the #1 source of infection of viruses or of data steal or any cyber crime. 90% of the time, it is coming from phishing, from people clicking on links on their emails. And trust me, it is easier said than done, because some emails are really well copied and you really believe that you're talking with Microsoft or with Google or with your bank. But the reality is that there's always something to identify. Sometimes it's the font that is off. Sometimes it's the logic that is off. So for example, your bank will never ask you for your password by email. They will never ask you to click on the link to put your password. This doesn't happen. So beware, be suspicious of anything that you're not expecting. It is better to delete an email out of suspicion and then have your contact resend it to you rather than click on the link, which is actually a phishing link where they get your data. So be very aware of this, because this is something that is absolutely growing in pain and in importance in terms of cybersecurity threats, and you don't want to be the next victim of a phishing or of a scam. So phishing is when you click on the link, and the scam is when they are trying to ask you for money to help someone in some country. This is a scam. Don't fall for it. Beware of it. Be suspicious of the emails that you get. Next up is to make sure that you manage smartly your passwords. Having the same password, which is password123 across the board, is not a good idea. Having complex passwords, even if they're complex to remember, they are absolutely important, because the more complex the password, the better. It's harder for hackers, it's harder for any other bots to find out what your password is. So have complex passwords. Update them regularly as well. Once you have a good password, make sure that you update it, depending on the severity of the system. If it's your bank, maybe change it more often. If it's just an account that is not very important, that doesn't have sensitive data, maybe you want to change it on a yearly basis. So have good passwords, change them often. And if you don't want to have to remember all of these passwords, use a trusted solution such as 1Password, which is a solution that manages your very complex passwords across the board and makes sure that you log in safely. Here, a quick trick for good passwords. If you want a complex one, one thing you can do is to take a phrase, take the first letters of that phrase, and then add numbers and add special characters. So for example, if we take a phrase such as "I love chocolates," your password could be a capital I, an L, a C. That would be the beginning of the password. And then you add some numbers, and then you add some special characters such as a hashtag or an exclamation mark. Having these capitals, having these letters, having these special characters in a long password makes your password safe. And this is a very big recommendation from a security standpoint. The next one is to make sure that you're careful where you click. When you visit a website that you don't know, before you visit that website, make sure that you know where you're going. If Chrome or Safari tells you, hold on a second, this website doesn't seem to be safe, do not click through it. If you are on Facebook and you see an advertisement for something that looks fishy, or if you see something that looks too good to be true, do not click on it. If you have a doubt of where you're clicking through, do not click on it. That can be on an email, that can be on a website, that can be on social media. But you always have to be extremely careful with where you click and not visiting unknown websites or sites that don't seem related to what you were searching. Most of the time, the links that you see on Google are safe, but it doesn't hurt to take a few seconds and look into exactly what the URL is. And if the URL that shows sounds off, don't click on it. You're better off, because once you've infected, that's another problem. So be careful where and what you click. When you have a desktop or a laptop, make sure you never leave it unattended, be it at work, be it in an airport, a restaurant, a hotel. When your device is open and unlocked, anyone can come in with a USB stick, put it into your computer and infect your computer or steal your data this way. And this happens more times than we can guess. And even when you're in an office, I personally had the case a few years ago where someone got into the offices and everybody felt they were safe. They did not lock their computers because they were in the office. Result, the company got hacked because of that. Because people felt safe, they said, well, I'm within work, so nothing can happen. You never know. So if your device is unattended, make sure you lock it. Like that, you don't have any security risk with it. The next one is to safeguard your sensitive data. Your sensitive data is your personal information, such as your address, your phone number, your date of birth, your credit card number, your bank details, etc. All of that doesn't need to be across the internet. You don't need to have this information across the board. You need to have it only in places that absolutely require these things. So for example, don't take pictures of your credit card if you back up your pictures to the cloud. Make sure you don't send a picture of that credit card to a friend to pay on internet through WhatsApp, because that would be a terrible idea, because that would be very sensitive data that goes into places that you cannot safeguard actively. So when you have this sensitive data, make sure you store it in a very, very safe place, and make sure that you do not put it across the board. You don't need to have every piece of personal data that is available on Facebook, on Instagram, on WhatsApp, and on your backup system. You need to have this personal data and sensitive data only in places that are safe and that absolutely require that information. Next up is your mobile devices. You have the same risk, if not more risk, with your mobile devices. Viruses are not limited to desktops or laptops. The infections and the cyber crimes can absolutely happen on mobile, and they actually often start on mobile. So you get an email, you read it quickly on your phone, you click on the link was a phishing scam, you're infected, your inbox is infected, and your computer is infected as well, even though you clicked on your mobile. So you must lock it, you must have a PIN or face recognition on your mobile, but be as wary as you are on your desktop than you are on your mobile, because it is the same risk, if not more, because we tend to go faster on our mobile devices and we tend to just download apps here and there. This is not a best practice. The best practice is to make sure that you download your apps from the official stores and that you're very careful with where you click and what you click on your mobile devices. Because when you have these issues on your mobile, they will reflect across the board. And think of it as well. Most of us are now using our mobile devices to log into our bank accounts or have Face ID to do some official papers. It means your mobile device also stores your credit cards very often. If that device is compromised by a cybersecurity threat, then you will absolutely have a terrible time getting your data back, getting everything back. So your mobile devices are even more vulnerable than your laptops and your desktop. So beware of how you use them and use them safely. This one might seem obvious, but it is still not the case for everyone. Having an antivirus up to date and an anti-malware up to date on your computer is the first base of protection. If you don't have this, you're not even starting having the first base. And so it is unfortunate to see that in 2021, still many computers don't have antiviruses, they don't have anti-malware. Yes, there's a budget to it to pay for it, but trust me, it is less costly to pay a subscription of a few dozen, a few hundred francs, depending on the solution, to safeguard your computers and make sure that if someone is trying to attack your computer, you're at least protected. So this is really one of the bare recommendation. The next up is to make sure that if it happens, you have your data backed up. If you have your data backed up, if someone hacks into your computer, if someone gets into your file, at least you have a backup of this data. Again, the idea is not to back up some very sensitive data because you don't want to have it flying everywhere, but the important information, your business information that you need to have, or the images that you want to keep, make sure you back them up. Like that, if your computer crashes, if your computer is hacked, then you have a solution. You're not losing your entire data. And as I said in the beginning of this skill, you don't know when it's going to happen. And so you cannot put off and say, well, I'll back up next week, or I'll back up next weekend. Enable automated backup for the data that you really want to keep, and make sure that these backups are safe, so that you do these backups either on a drive like this or with one of the leaders on the market. It can be Microsoft, it can be Amazon, it can be Apple, but go with a trusted source for your backups. As a Swiss company, Infomaniac is also doing a great job offering some cloud space for your backups, for your devices. You might also want to consider them if you want to keep all of your data in Switzerland. So that was for the first skill, where we wanted to go through the 10 best practice for digital safety. You are a target. Don't think that you're not interesting to the hackers. Make sure your software is updated. Beware of emails and phishing and scams, because these happen all too often. Manage well your passwords, have complex passwords, long passwords, and change them often. And be careful what you click on. Be careful that if it looks something unusual, if it looks off, do not click on it. Don't leave your devices unattended. Safeguard your personal and sensitive data, such as credit card, date of birth, address, and make sure that you're even more aware when you use your mobile devices, so that you keep your iPhone, your Android, any phone like that, and the data that is stored on it safe. Install an antivirus and an anti-malware to protect yourself, and back up your data. Make sure that your data is in a safe place and that you can retrieve it, because a computer crash or a cybercrime both can have terrible repercussion in terms of data, and you want to make sure that you are safe from that end and that you don't lose anything. So that was for the first skill: be safe online and safeguard your data. The second one is to make sure that you're a rock star at video conferencing. We all attend a ton of Zoom or Teams or BlueJeans or any of these platforms, or Skypes or WebEx, and it has become kind of our day-to-day. And there are multiple platforms, and there are a few things that you can do to make sure that you rock it every single time, and that you don't fall into the fun things that, yes, are fun as a fail when you see someone else have it, but you don't want to be part of these people that experience these moments. So the first thing is to put technology on your side. The first thing you want to do is download the application. If you know that in a couple of days you have a Zoom meeting or a Teams meeting or a WebEx meeting or a Google Meet, whichever it is, make sure that that application is downloaded on your computer from a trusted source. Remember to be wary where you click, but download it directly from the editor. Download it from Google, download it from WebEx, and have it installed. This will remove the stress just a couple minutes before you have your conference, and you will have the software. You won't need to update it because it will already be there. At the same time, as you download the software, make sure you create an account. Again, you're removing stress from joining the conference, and you are setting yourself up for success because you already have the software, you already have an account, you know the password because you've put a safe password in there, and you know it by heart. And so when you have to log in for the conference, you're good to go. Make sure you test before. Make sure that if you have a very important conference, be it maybe a job interview that you do through a video conference, test it with a friend. Say, hey, look, I've just downloaded Zoom. Can we do a quick Zoom together to make sure that my headphones are working, that I can be seen on the camera, and that there's nothing funny going around. Testing it out will make sure that once you arrive at the video conference, you're good to go. And even if it's a video conference software that you might have more or less attendees or more or less features to use. So if you're, for example, testing a polling feature or a chat feature for the first time with that Teams or WebEx or Zoom, test that feature on your own before. Like that, when you arrive D-Day and you're running the conference, you know exactly and perfectly how it works. Arrive in advance. Many of you today arrived in advance to the Zoom meeting, and that's fantastic. Like that, you're sure that you don't miss before. Keep this as a best practice. So once you've put the technology on your side, you want to focus on your visuals. And visuals, it's a visual conference, have to be great. The first thing is the angle and the position. The angle, if I'm standing like this or if I'm standing like this, is not the same. You want to make sure that you have the right angle to the camera. Sometimes it means elevating a little bit the computers, like that the computer is and the camera is at the right angle. And make sure it gives you the right position. You see today, I'm able to hold myself straight because I've placed the camera and my seat in the right position. Like that, I can have a good posture and a good position for that video conference. If you slouch on the video conference, or if you're like this, or if you're like this, it will not have the same effect on you. Your posture, again, is really important. If you're in a job interview or if you're in a very important meeting, if you were in the office, you would have a right posture. You would not slouch back. Make sure you do the same in video conferencing. And it's easier in video conferencing to forget about our hands. It's easier to forget about our head or about our eyes. So beware of your body language, because remember, everybody can see you once you have your camera turned on. So keep that in mind for your video conferencing. Next up is the look. If I'm looking at the slides like this, you don't see me looking at you. If I look above, you don't see me looking at you. You have to look at the camera so that people have the feeling that you're talking to them. And focus your look and your gaze on that camera. Don't look somewhere else, because otherwise people don't see where you're looking. And the same as in a meeting in person, you would talk to people staring at them in the eyes. You want to make sure that you do the same when you are in the video conference. The lights and the reflect, make sure that you have right light coming to you, that you don't have a light in the background, or that you don't have a shadow coming through. Or if you have the sun coming straight into your eyes, you're not going to be able to look through the video conference. Or if you have the sun going onto your computer screen, you're not going to see anything and people are going to see you in the shadow. Anticipate all of that. If you have a video conference call at night, make sure you have lights behind your computer to have a better lighting and so like that people can see. This all contributes to your environment, the visual environment in which you are. Like that, you can give the best impression when you're delivering your video conference or simply attending. Make sure that you're engaged and that people have the best image of you, an image that is as good as the one you would have if you were in person. But you shouldn't forget your audio either. Make sure you close the door. That's an easy one, but we've all seen that CNN journalist that has a kid that come in. Make sure you close the door if you have an important meeting, and make sure that you use your headphones. It's always a better sound. From a microphone perspective, you have a better sound, and and you will hear the other people in the video conference better if you do that. If you cut off your other devices and you put them on silent, or even better, shut them off, you don't have the attraction of being attracted to another screen. You're focusing on what you're doing. And by focusing on what you're doing, you're giving an even better experience to the other people on the video conference. It's always better not to be interrupted. And so putting your devices off is a best practice. Don't type. Trust me, we can hear people typing. Even if you type super slowly and or even super softly, people can hear you type. So if you desperately need to type, put yourself on mute. But in general, it means that your mind is attracted to something else. And so while you type, you're not listening to the audio conference anymore. So it's the best practice to be engaged and not to type. If you do have to, or just in general, if you don't have to speak, put yourself on mute. Like that, you will be you will not be interrupting the conference. And if something happens in your background, in your environment of sound, someone honking in the street, a kid yelling in the back, you will not have this disturb the video conference. And last but not least, use that function that is available across all platforms. As you're on mute most of the time, just raise your hand and make sure that you wait for your turn to be able to speak. Like that, you will have a clear sound. Everybody will be listening to you and you won't be cutting off in between other people. So the visual is very important, but of course, the audio is of the same importance. And there are three key mistakes that many people have been doing in the past few years that we want you to avoid at any cost. And the first one is make sure you're not prepared just at the top. Because if something happens during your conference and you have to stand up, you will be in a terrible place to have to stand up and actually be ready only at the top. So be dressed for the occasion, dress for the occasion, and have the proper outfit completely, like that if anything happens, you're prepared. And you don't have to scramble under your desk to get out. The second one is make sure you don't have striped or lines or squared cloth on top when you're in a video conference. It's really hard for the eyes and you're going to set yourself for failure because everybody's going to stare at these lines that are not doing a good job on the camera. So this is typically the type of thing you want to avoid. You want to have some clothes that don't steal away the rock star that you are when you talk, that don't talk for you. You want to be the star. You don't want your clothes to actually offset the impression that you make. And striped and checked type of shirts or tops will have a negative impact in terms of video. Even with the best video cameras, these tend to give a poor experience. Don't forget to unmute yourself. This is a common mistake, but still, we've been, almost 2 years in that COVID thing. And so we've had countless Zoom meetings, and pretty much every Zoom meeting, we have someone that says, you're on mute, unmute yourself. Beware of that and make sure that you don't forget that, because in 2022, it is not possible anymore to hear you're on mute. We should all know better. We should all have a better experience than that. All right, so that was the second skill. Make sure that you are a rock star for your cyber conference, for your video conference. And the last one is to improve your visual game. And there are a few tools and online softwares that you can use to make amazing presentations, make amazing flyers, and really upgrade the way that you present visually. We're in 2021, almost in 2022. This type of visuals has to stop. It is not possible to do this in any sort of business, be it an association that you participate with, be it a work meeting. You simply cannot use these old types of visuals. You absolutely have to upgrade your game in there and use some of these tools that we're going to talk about. The first thing is to get inspired, because we all tend to see what's going on in our company or in the few companies that we've worked at. Get out there. There's a few websites, and I've listed them afterwards. There's a slide that you'll be able to screenshot with all of these URLs. But if you go to Inspiration Grid, for example, that will give you some design example. If you go to design websites, if you go to social media such as Pinterest or Instagram, you will have some visual inspiration about what is done at the moment, and it will inspire you to get out of the usual comfort zone. Of course, if you're presenting something that is branded on your company, then you have to follow the branded guidelines. But even so, you can respect branded guidelines from a very large company and at the same time be creative and have some amazing visual. You don't have to use Calibri or Helvetica or Garamond as a font all the time. There's millions of other fonts. And for that, Typewolf is a great resource where you can go and browse different sorts of fonts. And if there's one that you really like, you can download it from them and install it on Word, on PowerPoint, on any device that you're using. Again, back to cybersecurity. Typewolf is a trusted website, so you can download from them. Don't download fonts from any place on internet because they potentially can be infected. But Typewolf and other websites like this can help you get inspired. Find Pantone colors that will maybe get you out of the traditional black and white and blue. You have other options across colors. So first recommendation is to get creative. Get creative on what it's going to look like. Then once you've got your inspiration for your creativity, get creative. There's not only PowerPoint. I know that there are people on this call today using Macs. Keynote is also a great resource. And then past these big editors, you also have Prezi and SlideDog that are doing a fantastic job at helping you build some amazing PowerPoints, and they're not more complex than PowerPoint or Keynote. They just provide you additional options and different concepts and different layouts for your presentation. So use them. And then when you want to get creative, you can also look at platforms such as Canva or Visme or Adobe Spark that are platforms that do like Photoshop, but much easier. So they are available, some in free version, some in paid version, but there's already, for most of them, a free version that you can use to create some amazing visuals. Another thing you want to look at is websites such as Mockup Phone, where you can take a picture of your phone and then make it on your presentation as if it was within a phone. That makes for a greater visual, and it's not just a screenshot of a phone and you try to cut it and edit it and make it fit into an iPhone screen. No, here you have this tool that allows you to actually edit it and make it look great. So get creative with some of the platforms. And I'll show you a few platforms because we have a little bit of time. I will show you a few platforms afterwards live, and you will see the different things that they can do. Of course, we won't create something today together because we won't have time, but this gives you an idea of what they look like and the type of things that they can do. So get creative. After you got inspired, get creative and make something great. And once you're getting creative, get some resources. You don't have to rely on word art and things like that. There's a lot of websites such as Unsplash or Pexels or Pixabay that allow you to have free, great images to add on your PowerPoints, to add on your flyers, to add on your presentations. And you can make some great visuals absolutely legally because there is a license to use these resources, but it's free. And as long as you don't make commerce of these images, as you just use them to illustrate, you're entitled to use them. So this is, so for free stock pictures, yes, there is, thank you for the question. There's Unsplash, there's Pexels, and there's Pixabay. These are 3 websites that have millions of images from which you can browse directly. Another thing that is practical to have is icons for all sorts of things to represent. There's a great website called Flaticon that you can use. Again, it is free as long as you don't make a commercial use of these icons and you use them just on your presentations. And if you use them commercially, you disclose who you bought it from. But in general, Flaticon allows you to have great icons for your presentations. And so here I'm just getting to the slide where I told you I was going to have some of these resources like that. If you want, you can screenshot this one. It will also be part of the recording of this webinar, so you can retrieve them. I mentioned I was going to show you what they look like. So here we have the Inspiration Grid, which is a great website that allows you to see some creative designs that have been going on across all sorts of industries. And so if one appeals to you, if you're into this type of shapes, or if you're into this type of shapes, then you can look into this and have some further details about how they created it, and it can inspire you to do something great. The next thing is that I mentioned was Pinterest. You see here, I just searched for flyer designs, and you can see all sorts of flyer designs so that it can give you other ideas of way to set up your page, have some triangles here, have some black and gold here, have some images marked up like this. Getting outside, because we're not all designers, so getting outside of our comfort zone, getting onto these inspirational websites allow us to actually get some new ideas and focus on something that is great. I mentioned Typewolf before. So here you see you have all the types, all the fonts that you can use. And trust me, there's a lot. You can scroll down for a really long time. And they've put them together, some that are fun, some that are favorite, etc. So Typewolf is a great resource for you to use. I mentioned Canva, and Visme is the equivalent of Canva. We are on the same type of programs. And here you can create from scratch or from a template, you can create some presentations, some Instagram posts, some Facebook posts. You can create all sorts of different things. I see that someone unmuted themselves. Is there something you'd like to ask? All right, no worries. So here on Canva, you can create a lot of different templates. They have anything from business presentations to social media posts, to business cards, to QR code. Everything can be created on there and change your game, upgrade your game from a design perspective. You can do very similar things with Visme that also have these very free to edit elements. And you can really, in a matter of minutes, create something that is different and that allows you to stand out from the rest. I also mentioned Mockup Phone. Here you will decide which device you want. So for example, I want an iPhone 12, and that iPhone 12, I want it black, and I'm going to come here, I'm going to click on it, and I'm going to put my image. What will come out of it once I generate the mockup is a file with my image from my phone coming in here, and I can put it into a presentation. So this is a very good recommendation because it makes your presentation look even more professional when you want to talk about something going on mobile. And last but not least, this is Unsplash, which is equivalent to Pexels or to Pixabay. They all have a free subscription, and then you have all your HD images that are here. And so, for example, if we are looking for nature, we're going to search for nature without a misspelling, and we're going to have amazing images. And so if we take this image and we really like it, we can simply download it for free and use it in our presentation. Again, make sure that you don't use them commercially. The license you get is not to sell them and is not to use them commercially. These images, pay attention to the license that is attached to it, but for presentations and internal things and flyers, it is allowed. But again, word of notice, make sure that you use them appropriately based on the license that you sign when you sign up for free with them. So that was the 3 digital skills that I wanted you to take out today. So the first one was cybersecurity, make sure you're safe online. The second one was to make sure you rock your video conferencing. And the last one was to upgrade your game in your visuals and your presentations and your flyers and any sort of design creations that you do. We have a little bit of time for you to ask any questions. I've seen a few questions in the chat coming through, but I believe that we've touched upon all of these. As we wait for questions to get in, please feel free to scan that QR code for the feedback on this. This is feedback that is generated for Digital Switzerland. So they get this feedback on all the conferences that are taking place. I'm going to copy paste the link if you'd rather click on the link. This is a safe link. This is brought by Digital Switzerland, just to give your feedback on today's presentation so that it comes into the big pool of feedback about the digital days in general, and as well to me to improve the presentations that I give. So thank you very much for your time today. And I will stay on for a few questions. I see that one of the questions is, could you display the slide with the links again? Here it is. You have the links again, but Please feel free to let me know if you have any question about any of these 3 topics that we covered today: cybersecurity, video conferencing, or upgrading your visuals game. You're welcome. Thank you. And if you liked what you've seen today and you want to connect with us on our social media, please feel free to connect with us on the one you prefer. Visit our website for more information. Of course, we're always happy to keep the discussion going on. Any additional question? Anyone would like to clarify something?